Throughout the years, electric cars have been purchased at an incredibly fast rate. Many people have been purchasing them to try and wash away their carbon footprint. While that may sound like nothing but an upside, some car manufacturers may find themselves struggling to keep up with the needs of their clientele, as well as keep up with competitors. Want to know more on the subject? Then look no further. To get us started, let's take a look at the history of electric cars. Electric cars have been around for a long time. However long you're thinking, it's longer than that. In fact, the first electric car came in the early 1800s. There are two men credited with being the creators of the electric car. Those two men were American and Scottish innovators Robert Anderson and Thomas Davenport. It's worth pointing out that their vehicles were not as operative as electric cars of today and couldn't even handle day-to-day tasks. As well as the failure to handle everyday tasks, the electric car created by Anderson and Davenport did not run on rechargeable batteries. This was due to the fact that at the time of the creation, there was no such thing. When the lead-acid battery came into play in 1989, the issue was fixed. In 1987, electric city taxis were driving through the streets of New York thanks to William Morrison. This led to Thomas Edison wanting to create electric vehicles that had long-lasting batteries in them. Of course, he ended up abandoning the idea. By the second half of the 1930s, electric cars had been completely discarded by the American people, not to be picked back up for another 40 years when they saw a resurgence in the 1990s. Next, let's talk about some of the major difference between electric and gas cars. There are many differences between a gas car and an electric car. There are the differences that people know about and the ones they don't. Of course, people know that the electric car is much more eco-friendly than the gas, and they know that instead of fueling up at a local gas station, you have to charge electric cars. Having just a battery means that with an electric car, you'll never have to worry about problems like engine failure. Electric cars also drive differently than gas cars, with electric cars usually being quicker than the gas ones. The maximum torque for electric cars is usually 0, meaning that they can go from 30 to 50 miles per hour much quicker than your normal gas car. Despite electric cars getting to 30 to 50 mile per hour range quicker, gas cars usually come with top speeds that are higher. In a nutshell, this means that electric cars can get ahead in the beginning of a race, but the gas car can get speeds that electric cars won't be able to keep up with. There are many differences to the cars, but which car you should buy depends on what you're looking for in a specific vehicle. Now, let's talk about the rising boom of electric cars. While it would be great to turn all gas guzzlers into electric cars, that would better help the Earth's ozone stay clear. While it would be great and be beneficial to everyone, it won't be easy. It's difficult because the cars require minerals to run. Minerals like nickel, cobalt, and graphite. The most important mineral out of the bunch is lithium. With more and more people opting towards electric cars, lithium usage is going through the roof, which means that we're seeing less and less lithium in the world. To complicate things even more, lithium isn't just used in electric vehicles, but in other energy storage and pieces of clean energy technology. Everybody is trying to get their hands on lithium, so much so that Andrew Miller, who is the CEO of Benchmark Mineral Intelligence, has spoken up about it, saying that we are currently in a lithium supply deficit. Lithium is very in demand now for companies, but it's estimated to only get worse. The current amount of electric cars on the road is set to boost exponentially in the next decade. It's estimated that by 2025, there will be 469 million electric cars on the road. Moving on, let's talk about some things to know before buying an electric car. Many people have planned or are currently planning to get an electric vehicle. Sometimes you opt out because you're not exactly sure what you're getting into. With purchasing an electric vehicle, there are things you need to know. For instance, the battery on an electric car can last up to anywhere between 15 to 20 years before they'll need to replace them. When they do break down, it can cost you anywhere between $2,000 and $10,000 to get it replaced. People are aware that electric vehicles must be charged instead of filled up at a gas tank, but what they do not know is that the time it takes to fully charge your battery. On most cars, charging your car from empty to full will take you around 8 hours. This is not for all cars though. Some cars even take up to more than 12 hours to get a full charge. While it may take longer than pumping up at a gas station, the wait is much more worth it when you compare the two costs. To get the average electric car charged enough to drive 150 miles, it would only cost you roughly $6.63. Next, let's talk about some of the best electric cars to purchase. When somebody says electric car, the first vehicle most people think of is a Tesla, but there are many more electric cars out there, like the Renault Megane E-Tech. This car is great for people who have become accustomed to normal gas cars. The vehicle runs like that of your run-of-the-mill gas vehicles, but the inside is electric. This means that you can drive your vehicle like you're used to, but you could better the environment, while also eradicating the money that you'd have to spend on gas every week. Another great electric vehicle to consider if you're in the market is the Hyundai Ioniq 5. This electric vehicle is one of the comfortable cruisers around. The car also comes with many safety features that make your rides around town much safer. Its display menu is also not too bad, coming with an HUD that many find to be incredibly useful. The car also has a great amount of range on it, which isn't surprising for an electric vehicle. Another plus for this car is its size. The car is mid-sized, meaning that it's easier to fit in spaces than cars that are either too big or are too small. Switching sides, let's talk about some of the worst electric cars. While electric vehicles can be great for the economy and can improve your driving experience by a bunch, it all depends on the electric vehicle that you're behind the wheel of. If you're in the market for a new electric vehicle, you'll like to know which vehicles you should avoid. One of these vehicles is the Fiat 500e. The problem with this car isn't that it's an awful car. In fact, when it came out over a decade ago, it was a car that could suffice all right. The issue is that in the time since it was first created, many things have been introduced in the world of electric cars. Many things that have helped the Fiat 500e to age poorly. One of these things is its only 90-mile range. The range problem does not only affect the Fiat 500e, it is also an issue for cars like the Mini Cooper SE. This car's range of only 114 miles does not make the car completely useless, but means that this car will only be good for driving around town, and means for taking long trips you'll need to buy a new vehicle that can go further without having to charge. Finally, let's talk about some new equipment that can help the charging of electric vehicles. Charging electric vehicles instead of fueling them up at a gas station is both the best and worst thing about electric vehicles. It's the best because what you'd pay to fill up an electric car is what you'd pay per gallon for a gas car. It's the worst because of the excruciating amount of time that you must wait to actually get your car filled all the way up. Thankfully, this may not be a problem forever. It was recently revealed that some of the experimental technology that NASA uses to cool their equipment in space may be available to people down on Earth. NASA themselves confirmed that their technology may be available to help electric cars charge at a time that is more than 10 times faster than their usual time, whereas it currently takes an electric vehicle around 8 hours or more to charge. With this NASA equipment, it will only take 5 minutes, if not less. This technique is referred to as subcooled flow boiling, and according to NASA, it's got the ability to boost electric vehicle charges by somewhere around 1400 amps. With the current amount of amps being 520, this means the subcooled flow boiling could up the amps by almost 5 times. Electric vehicles are taking the world by storm. While it may help the Earth in one way, it can also do damage to it another, with the mass requirements of lithium. Do you think it's worth the lithium deficiency? Let us know what you think in the comments down below.